Hi, I'm Savannah Jones, and this is DMG's Bootstraps and Business. If you're considering a career or in the middle of a job search, I know it's a lot of work and it can be incredibly frustrating. Well, today you'll get great career advice from Mac Prichard, who is the co-founder and CEO of Mac's List. It's a job board chock full of fulfilling and purposeful jobs, which, as a job seeker, can help you find your best opportunity. We'll learn more about his mission-driven PR agency, Prichard Communications, and how they help organizations identify objectives and develop plans of action. He is a force here in the Portland community with what I believe is the sole purpose of doing good. So if you're looking for a new career or you're a business owner trying to get your organization on track, Mac will definitely give you something to chew on today. Well, Mac, thank you so much today for taking the time to chat with me. I'm excited to hear about you and about Mac's List and about Prichard Communications. You are a service, mission-driven fella, and you have been for a long time, and you're such a force in the Portland community. So why don't you tell me where you got started, what your vision looked like in college, and where you thought you were going to be going, and where you ended up heading and where you are now. So let's hear it.
Well, it's a pleasure to be on the show. Thank you for inviting me, Savannah. I grew up in the Midwest in Iowa, and when I went to college at the University of Iowa, and I finished school, I had three goals, though candidly, Savannah, I couldn't have said it as succinctly as I'm about to put it. But I knew I wanted to get paid to write. I knew I wanted to work on election campaigns, and I was very interested in working on human rights issues in Latin America. And I did all of those things in the start of my career. My first job after college was on a U.S. Senate race. I took a position in Washington, D.C., doing media relations for a human rights group involved in Latin American policy, and that led to another job working on human rights and issues in Latin America, but it was based in Boston. And what happened though, Savannah, was after I had those three great jobs in a row, I had a long period of unemployment, and it taught me the importance of being clear about goals and about learning job search skills. And I later had a career. I made the switch to working on state and local government and politics, and that led to positions in Boston. And then I came out to Portland 30 years ago now to work at City Hall and then in the governor's office and for different state agencies using my communication skills. But along the way, I learned the value of not only being of service in my work, my 9-to-5 job, but being of service to my professional network. And I started sharing job postings, and that led me to creating a business almost 20 years ago now called Mac's List. And we have a job board that publishes job openings in Oregon and Washington. But I also run a public relations company that serves nonprofits, foundations, and government agencies. I've been doing that for 15 years. Both are certified benefit corporations. Both are part of a global movement of as business as a force for social good. And the constant that runs through all the different jobs I've had in my career is trying to make a difference about issues I care about or in the community where I live and work.
So let's talk about Mac's List, how that got started and where it is today. It is a great resource, and it's not just a typical job board. There's a lot that goes into this, and you've been doing it for quite a while.
I have. I started Mac's List as an informal newsletter 20 years ago, way back in August of '01. And the reason I did it, Savannah, is I'd had two long periods of unemployment early in my career. And those experiences taught me the value and the importance of serving your network, your professional connections. And the way I did that was by sharing job postings. And I wasn't getting paid for this. I just did it to be of service to others. But as time went by, the list grew, and I started my public relations company in 2007, and I found myself paying someone to send out this, what had become a weekly newsletter. And it had turned into a part-time job. So we did turn it into a business about 11 years ago now, and it employs 5 people. And what makes it different from the other many good job boards out there is our focus on helping job seekers learn how to look for work well. And we also help employers uh, hire smarter. And we provide lots of free content to both employers and job seekers about how to do both.
So let's talk about the job search. It is pretty daunting to some. A lot of people right now are making career changes, transitioning. A lot of people have rethought what they were going to do with their lives and want to be more purposeful in their jobs and in their careers. So what they were looking for 2 years ago may not be what they were looking for. So a lot of shifts and moves and changes, and a lot of change in how people are getting jobs in regards to those job boards. So what is the first step that's going to help them along the way? A lot of people feel like they're sending out those resumes into a black hole, and no person is ever literally seeing the resumes.
The number one thing you can do to make your job search easier and shorter, and ultimately to have the most rewarding career, is to be clear about what you want. And that means, Savannah, you got to set goals. You got to know the positions that interest you, and you have to have a list of target employers that most excite you. And when you do that, when you're clear about what you want, and you know the position you want, and you know where you want to go, then your search gets easier. Now, you're right, a lot of things have changed because of the pandemic, but those principles remain unchanged.
And how about networking? Because that's also changed a little bit. You and I, possibly 2 years ago would have been sitting here face to face and holding this conversation. But now it is remote, hybrid. You can work from anywhere. How do you maintain a network? How do you build a network?
You do it by paying attention to relationships. And that's something else that hasn't changed. And yes, most of our networking is happening now virtually through Zoom calls, email, social media, or even old-fashioned telephone calls. But virtual networking was always part of the system before the pandemic, and it's certainly more important now. But you've got to pay attention to relationships, because when hiring managers are looking for candidates, they rely heavily on referrals. So who you know matters. The good news is, you don't have to be somebody's old college roommate or best friend or live in the same neighborhood. Even the weakest of ties can make a huge difference. And networking helps you build those ties and make those connections. To do it effectively, however, you gotta, again, do it strategically. And that means being clear about your goals and knowing what companies most interest you. Because then you can focus on building the relationships that are going to be most helpful when you're looking for work.
So MaxList is not only a job board. You have a lot of resources there. So why don't you run through some of what, if somebody's watching right now, they're like, this sounds like, the steps I need to take. This sounds like something I should investigate. What else is on Max board other than job listings?
We have a section of the website called Learn that's aimed at job seekers, and you'll find hundreds of articles there, as well as dozens of guides, two online courses, one on interviewing, one on using social media in your job search, as well as a book that's focused exclusively on looking for work in Portland. And I do host a weekly podcast, Find Your Dream Job, and every week I talk to a different career expert about the nuts and bolts of job hunting. All of those materials are free, as is the job board, but we really encourage our readers not only to look at our listings, but pay attention to learning how to look for work. Because if you get good at it, you're going to get better results. And I would say to anybody who's just sending out applications after finding postings on our website or other job boards out there, you're making your search harder than it has to be, because you can't rely on job postings alone to find your next job. You got to understand how hiring managers hire. And then once you get clear about that, you can build the skills that you need to get the job you want.
And when somebody is looking for that job, how do they determine? What if it's somebody who is really unsure? The pandemic turned a lot of things around, and now they're saying, what I have been doing, I really don't want to do, but I'm not really sure what the next thing is. To your point, they have to be clear. So how do they find that clarity, or what are those steps?
That's a very normal phase to go through. And remember, most of us will be in the workplace for 40 plus years. We'll probably have several different careers, and you'll pursue different interests. It's normal for us to have multiple interests. When you're doing a search, you've got to get clear about what you want. So one of the best ways to do it is come up with a short list of the 2 or 3 positions that interest you the most. And take that list and identify people who are doing that work and ask them how they got there, what a typical day is like, what matters to hiring managers who are filling those positions, what skills and experiences are most important. What does the job pay? Whatever your questions are about that opportunity, as well as your possible objections. What are your concerns? And if you have conversations with 3, 5, 7 people who are doing the work that interests you, and you explore those questions, you'll find out quickly whether that's something you want to do or not. Just pay attention to the energy and enthusiasm you feel. That's why it's important, Savannah, to explore 2 or 3 different opportunities at the same time. And in the job seekers I talk with, and certainly in my own experience, I find that people figure out after a couple of those conversations if that's something they really want to do.
One of the best tips I ever got in between jobs when I was looking and did the information, coffees, informational coffees, getting to know you a little bit, getting to know the positions and the company a little bit, was suggested at the end of that conversation, ask that person for 3 more names of people you can reach out to and contact. And that really helped me in my job search, because I was talking to one person one week and then I had 3 more people to talk to and ask them, do you have 3 more names? And right away it mushroomed into a lot of people I could reach out to and ask questions to. So that was a huge tip for me.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I think sometimes job seekers believe they don't have a network or they don't know anyone. We all have networks. There are places we all went to schools, we're involved in community organizations, maybe faith organizations. We have former coworkers, classmates. And I think people sometimes forget that, but they also get stuck because before they reach out, they're not sure what to ask for. And I don't think the problem is finding more names or people to talk with. It's understanding how to run a meeting like that. And I'm a big fan of informational interviews, and I think they're one of the best ways to get clear about what you want to do professionally, but also to uncover the jobs that never get advertised. And a good informational interview, Savannah, will run 20 to 30 minutes. It has 3 parts. You have a specific reason for meeting with someone. There's a reason why you want to talk to that person. Maybe they've got a job you want. Maybe they work in the field that interests you. Maybe you want an introduction to someone. Know what that reason is, but it's also an opportunity to do 3 things. 1, introduce yourself, share your story and your goals. 2nd, ask some very specific targeted questions that that person can help you answer. And the 3rd is to ask for introductions to other people. And you, again, want to be strategic and specific about that. Banish the following phrases from your vocabulary or your conversation when you're job searching. I'm open to anything. Don't do that. Be specific. Know what you want. And if you're not clear about that, invest time in finding out. Also, avoid the phrase, I want to pick your brain. There's a reason why you want to meet with someone. It's a business meeting. There's a specific reason why you want to meet with this person. No, and if you're not clear about it, then you're not ready for the meeting. And so as with any business meeting that you call, you're in charge, you set the agenda, and you need to know what you want when you walk in that room. And when you get up, you need to be clear about whether you got the outcomes you wanted.
And you mentioned something about hidden jobs. Can you elaborate on that? What you mean by that?
I can. So many jobs are never posted on our site or any job board. And there's no conspiracy here. The reason this happens is managers are reducing risk, and because it's expensive when you hire somebody and it doesn't work out, and it takes you 3 to 6 months to figure it out. Nobody likes it, the employer or the candidate. So to reduce risk, managers rely heavily on referrals. That's why you'll see companies that will pay bonuses to employees who refer people who get hired there. That's why you'll get these emails. We all get them from friends or colleagues who say, "Hey, we're hiring at my company. Know any great people? Let me know." And I think if we've received an email like that and we've responded, we all have that experience of probably getting a phone call, and we're not going to get a job because of that referral, but we'll certainly get perhaps an interview and certainly an informal conversation. So once you recognize the power of referrals, then your challenge becomes tapping into your network and growing your network to find out about those opportunities and get in front of hiring managers. That's why jobs get filled by word of mouth, because hiring managers are trying to reduce risk.
So let's go dial it all the way back to the beginning, the resume. Do you have a tip for resume senders? What is, now we have access to everything, all information. So you should be able to get it right. But a lot of people aren't getting it right. So what is your tip, or what is something right off the bat that somebody probably is not doing right with their resume that they could just clean up quickly?
Talk about results, not roles. So many job descriptions, so many resumes read like a job description. I was responsible for this. I oversaw that. Employers hire problem solvers. So you need to understand what the problems are at the companies that you hope will hire you, and you need to recast your resume to make sure that you show that you have experience solving those problems. And a great way to do that is by talking about the results you've produced for your past employers.
And anything else that you want? Because I want to talk about Prichard Communications and some of the other community activities you're involved in, and just kind of a little bit about you. But anything else that you want to leave with job searchers right now that they can literally go to their computer and do right now and probably change the course of where they were going?
You don't need a computer to do this, though it can be a useful tool. But my number one tip is don't wait to be picked. Often when I meet with job seekers, I ask them about their goals. Sometimes I have to press them a little bit, but I usually discover that people have a list of organizations, companies that they would love to work at. And then I say, well, who are you talking to over there? And often they don't know anyone, or they do, but they're uncertain how to reach out and have a conversation. So if you know you want to work at Nike or OHSU or at Wieden & Kennedy, that's great. Tell people that, and then start building relationships inside that organization. What you don't want to do is check the Wieden & Kennedy website every day for a job posting and then turn in your application along with hundreds of other people. Because again, it goes back to first principles. Referrals matter, and employers pay attention to connections. You can build those connections, but to do it, you can't wait to be picked. You got to be clear about what you want, where you want to work, and start building your network inside those organizations now.
Well, hopefully somebody will walk away from this and have themselves a job pretty quick after changing up their course of action here. That's exciting. Something, new for them to do rather than what they've been doing up to this point that hasn't worked.
And you, as the job seeker, can take control. You don't have to wait for an employer to call you. If you know you want to work at that company or that nonprofit or public agency, reach out now. And another benefit is often when we get inside those organizations and we're having conversations, we discover, hey, this isn't as good as I thought it would be. I really want to do something else instead. And it's great to find that out when you're doing your informational interviews, before you go through a formal application process, or maybe even accept an offer and then after 6 months discover that's not what you really wanted.
Right. So a little information up front is going to be very beneficial in the long run.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about Prichard Communications. What does your PR agency do?
We work with foundations, nonprofits, and public agencies to help them tell their stories and make a difference. And we do that by helping them with communications planning, crisis communications, digital marketing, and public affairs services.
So somebody who's working in a company right now and they're possibly looking forward to 2022 and maybe got a little derailed, they need to maybe identify some goals and come up with some strategies and then put some plans in action to get them through that next year, whatever that might be.
Absolutely. And often our clients come to us at the start and they are interested in a strategy or a tactic. They say, I need a newsletter, or I want to be on this social channel. I think we should do a series of events, or I want to get on these radio stations or in this newspaper, whatever the channel might be. But what we like to do instead is start with why. Why do you want to be there? What is the organizational goal that you're trying to accomplish through your interest in this communication strategy or tactic? And usually, Savannah, we find that the outcomes that our clients want fall into one or all of three buckets. They want, the first one is money. They want to get a grant or an appropriation or an increase in membership revenue. The second is some kind of policy change. They want to see a law or an ordinance or a rule passed. And the third thing they want is to grow their audience. It might be increasing subscriptions, increasing in community involvement, finding new or different ways to engage certain kinds of people. Whatever the outcome is, we like to work back from that and then look at the communication strategies and tactics that will help support those organizational goals.
A lot of times there are a lot of ideas because in a creative field or when somebody's an entrepreneur, they're starting a business, there are a lot of ideas, but the implementation is where it gets a little confusing because grand ideas and we see where we want to go, but nobody knows how to get there.
That can be very challenging. And what can help is to have a communications plan, either for a campaign or for the organization overall, that lays out not only the goals, but the timetable, the budget, and the roles and responsibilities. So when you have a roadmap like that, it makes it easier not only to get the work done, but to hold people accountable for who's going to do what.
Right. So you've got Max List, you got Prichard Communications. Do you have any other time for anything else? What else is going on?
Well, I just
and the podcast. And the podcast.
Yeah. I do host a weekly podcast. We've been doing it for 6 years now. It's been downloaded 2.3 million times.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
It is. We have a great audience, and I have a great team that helps me with the show. It's not just me. I have 5 people who help with scheduling and social promotion and editing and production. So what I learned from that experience is the importance of teamwork and also the importance of consistency, just showing up week after week, and as well being clear about who you serve and what makes you different. So our niche for the show is we get really granular about the nuts and bolts of job search. And a lot of people in the career space, they're interested in other things. That's great. But that's what we do. And no one else does it quite the way we do. And I think because we have that laser-like focus, that is a big reason, as well as the great team, for our success in attracting a national audience.
That's amazing. So what else do you have on your plate? What else is coming up for you?
I just finished a 2-3-year terms of service on the Nonprofit Association of Oregon Board of Trustees. I was the vice chair, and just had my last meeting last week. It was fun to be part of this organization. It's the trade association for nonprofits in the state of Oregon. And while I was on the board, the association transformed itself from being an organization that provided consulting services to one that served its members. And it took a while to make that change, but I think it's been a good change for the nonprofit world in Oregon, and it's been exciting to be part of it.
And anything else coming up? Any changes coming up in 2022 for you? Anything on the horizon? Or you're going to relax now?
Looking forward to post-pandemic life,
right?
like everybody else.
Right.
So many changes in the business world. Both of the companies that I run operated from an office in downtown Portland until March of 2020, and we've been 100% virtual ever since. So saying that and doing it overnight, saying it is easy, but doing it overnight was hard. You had to learn new business processes, new approaches to management, and new ways of working together as teams. And we've navigated that, but it took hard work. And I think in the long run, our companies are stronger because we are operating virtually. But we're still working through some of those changes. So that certainly lies ahead too.
Well, you're very consistent in your messaging, and back to Max List and Prichard Communications and the podcast and the book. Like you said, you're granular in your approach, and then and with Prichard Communications, how you take the why and build out the plan from there in regards to the goals. So you're very consistent in your messaging. So I'm hoping that somebody who just stopped by and checked it out really got some information that they can apply to their situation and really take that next step. And I do feel like this conversation has given people that something that they can walk away with and apply right now to get that informational interview, or reach out to somebody in a company, or look at what maybe why they want to take their company, where they want to take it. What is that all about? So I'm hoping that with this conversation, you've planted the seed for somebody to take an action step and then get to that next level.
I would hope so. And that is our hope in all the educational material that we provide through Max List and then our work at Prichard Communications. At Prichard, we do enjoy teaching our clients the skills that we've learned so that they don't have to keep hiring us to do things. There are other ways we can help them, usually at a more strategic level, but it's rewarding for us to teach those skills, and certainly at Max List as well. And I would say, I think the people who are most successful in their careers and in their businesses are lifelong learners. And certainly everybody who works with me is that way. And I've been that way my whole life. And I think it brings satisfaction, and it also brings success when you take that approach to your work.
Well, Mac, thank you again for your time today. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed the conversation.
Well, thank you for having me, Sven. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, as always, for checking out DMG's Bootstraps and Business. If you'd like to find out more about our guests, DMG, or these podcasts, just check out the show notes. Thank you.